if we try to look up the heat capacity of something, chances are you're not going to find it. But what you'll find is something called specific heat. Okay? The word specific, when you put the word specific in front of something, that usually means per gram. So specific heat actually is short for specific heat capacity. Okay? So that means that by definition, that's heat capacity per gram. And so for the things for which you can look up heat values of specific heat are those that are systems that are homogeneous. That means they're uniform throughout. Because if a system is not uniform throughout, different parts of the system will have different heat capacities. Okay, so specific heat is only defined when you're dealing with homogeneous system, and all you have to do is multiply the specific heat by the mass to get the heat capacity. Because specific heat, so we're using lowercase c for specific heat. Some books would use SPHT, some books would use C sub S, so you just need to be aware of that. Specific heat is just heat capacity per gram. So if you know the value for 1, you multiply by how many, you get the actual value, right? So if you know the value of heat capacity per gram, you multiply by the number of grams, then you get the heat capacity. So specific heat, the value for 1 gram times how many grams you have, which would be the mass. Okay, so given the specific heat and the mass, the heat capacity is the specific heat times the mass. So if I know the heat capacity and the mass, how would I figure out the specific heat? Yeah, so heat capacity divided by the mass. Big C divided by little m gives you the specific heat. Okay? So you can see that if the mass is a gram, if my mass is 1, then my big C is equal to little c, right? So you can say that little c is heat capacity per gram. That's specific heat capacity. What would be a unit for specific heat? What's the unit for heat capacity? This is joule per degree Celsius or joule per Kelvin, right? And the unit for mass is, we usually use grams in chemistry. So you can use, if you want to use SI units, you can use kilograms. So specific heat is joules per degree Celsius per gram. So degree Celsius and gram are in the denominator. So you can write it this way: joules degree Celsius gram, or joules per Kelvin per gram. Or if you want to write everything in one line, you say joule per degree Celsius, you raise to the -1 power per gram. Okay, that's another way of writing it. Or you can write it as joule per Kelvin per gram. So those are the different ways you can write the units for specific heat.